Hey everyone. So this is a Q&A that answers some questions that you asked me on Instagram actually as a celebration of the 15K followers here on YouTube. And I just wanted to thank you really briefly before we go into the questions because I don't even know exactly. I think I've done this now for about 4 years, 4 years. And the responses that you give me are so positive. It's a joy to read your comments every time here on YouTube. So I feel like super supported and so glad that I can contribute here. So thank you for that. And so now, let's go into the questions. So the first one I got is, when is interrupting okay when practicing empathic listening? I'm sure you all know empathic listening, just listening in silence mostly and guessing feelings and needs. And so, when this person asks when is interrupting okay, I guess the idea is that you're supposed to be silent and you're supposed to be, the listener. So, So there's something about this question that I think is very interesting because, a lot of people that follow me are a little bit like me, sort of recovering people pleasers. And so there's something about this question that already assumes a little bit that interrupting is maybe not a good thing. Like there's something about it that that you shouldn't do. So when is it okay? And in a way, the answer is it's always okay to interrupt. The question is, of course, like what are you trying to reach? So the idea of NVC is that I'm trying to get connection with the other person. And then you might think, well, if I don't let them finish their story, I don't create connection. I create a little bit of a clash, actually. When actually, I think that the moment I notice I'm distracted by something that's going on in me, and I'm no longer listening, and that's not in the interest of the person. If I'm bored, it's actually very likely that this person is not fully engaged either. You might think they are. You might think, well, they like having this stage or something, and they're sort of like bragging about something, or I don't know, they're being like long-winded or anything like that. It's kind of likely that they're also a little bit stuck in a sort of like habit maybe, or if they're sharing about their pain and it just is longer than you would like, it's also likely that they're a little bit stuck in their head. Like when someone is connected to their body, I can listen to them for a very long time because it's very real. I can easily connect with the feelings that they're connecting with. But if they're not connecting with their feelings and I can't really tell what's actually going on in them, it's not so engaging anymore. And I get distracted as well. Just checking if I was recording properly. So that's just a little bit of a background of, our idea about interrupting is it's bad. We're not supposed to interrupt our parents. We were not supposed to interrupt our teachers. It's all about a little bit of a power dynamic that most of us are conditioned in. Especially if you belong to any sort of marginalized group, if you're a woman, if you're a person of color, anything like that. So interrupting, what does it even, it could get like almost philosophical, like what does it even mean? Like I start speaking, I guess, when someone else is speaking, before they're finished, right? So yeah. So that said, so check yourself a little bit, like how do you feel about interrupting? Do you do that ever? And then to make it easier for yourself, it is helpful to know how to do it in a way that is sort of smooth, so it doesn't become a big thing or something. And this requires a bit of practice, but let me think what could be good ways. It depends a bit on the situation. So let's say the situation of someone is sharing something about their pain, and it takes longer than you would like, right? So then what I would do is just to say something like, can I interrupt for a second? Or, hey, I need to stop you for a second because something's going on in me. And I notice it makes me less listening with less attention, or I'm not the attentive listener that I would like to be. So it's say something to interrupt. It could be, can I interrupt, or hey, I'm just going to interrupt. If you don't like the idea of just starting to speak, right? It's helpful to announce it in a way like, hey, I'm aware that you're still in the middle of something and I'm interrupting. And then if you announce right away, like your intention, which is, hey, I actually want to be a good listener. You could even literally say that, like, I need to stop for a moment here because I want to be a good listener. And I notice I'm not right now because I'm distracted by something, or I notice my energy is finished. So I want to be a good listener. I want to be attentive, any kind of word that you like. And then you could say, what is it that right now you're not that way, which could be, my energy is finished. That's a human thing, right? At some point our energy is finished and listening to someone. So they will understand that or not, but then you did your best, right? So right now it's just about doing the best that you can. And then the next thing is like, what type of person is this? Can they receive this? But we're making it most likely that they can. So I think I'm just making this up on the spot, but I think those 3 steps. So just like announce the interruption, say what is sort of the shared interest in interrupting, which is usually they want you to be attentive and listening. They don't want you to continue pretending sort of that you're listening. And then what is it? What is the need in you that you're taking care of? Which could be, I have a need for rest. I have a need for sleep. I have a need for food. I need to eat something right now. And then lastly, you could kind of do a new proposal, which could be, so this is the request sort of, right? If you look at the 4 NVC steps, if you don't know them, I will link them here. So you could say something like, I could listen to you more tomorrow, or I could, if we have an hour break, maybe I can listen to you a little bit more. So you can do a proposal. Maybe you don't know right now when you have energy again. So then you could say like, I'd love to take a break now and kind of let you know when I have energy again. So really make sure that you don't undo all the work that you did in interrupting and taking care of yourself by promising something that you don't want to actually do. Right. So all these steps require being self-connected and everything. So don't expect of yourself that you're going to get it right, like right away. But I think, this is helpful. I'm thinking, is there another situation that requires a different approach? Well, so it could be that it's not so much about being out of energy, but you're actually triggered, right? So then I would add something like to ask the other person, do they have space to hear your trigger? Like, hey, I notice actually something's touching me. Do you have space to hear that? Right? And to have the flexibility that if they don't, that you go somewhere else to process, maybe write it out or call someone else or anything like that, so that having a full yes and listening is something that is wished for both parties. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know to the person who was asking this and anyone else who is interested in learning how to interrupt. So thank you for this question. I think it's a very useful topic. I think more people might have this question. So there's someone that just wrote as a question, saying no. And this is, it could totally be a complete video in itself or a video series. It's quite a broad question, but let me see what is interesting to say about this now. If you know anything about MVC, you know that, so 2 things I want to say about that. Saying no is hard because when we used to get a no as a child, we didn't have much power usually. So it meant, end of story, my needs are not getting met. And this is why it's hard now to give a no to someone, because it's in our mind, it's still like for the other person, end of story, sort of rejection, their needs don't matter. And that's usually not at all how the relationship lives in us, right? We care about the other person. I've even to a small degree if we don't know them very well, but like we have some sort of care. That's why we find it hard to say no. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that it's different now. And that's what you want to somehow include in the way you express no. So when you, so, and this is also why it's helpful not to always use the word no, unless of course someone is, being violent towards you. Here, I'm always assuming that there is an equal power dynamic, because otherwise you need other tools. But MVC assumes that there's sort of an equal power dynamic where, you're allowed to say no. So let me think. So this is why I recommend to avoid the word no, because it triggers something in people. Unless, like I said, unless the situation just requires big clarity. And next thing you want to do is, so how do you say no? Because you still want to express a no, right? Without maybe using that word. Is that you want to say what it is that you do want, right? So I don't want to meet you tonight. I do want to take care of my body, and I would love to meet you tomorrow. So, you're asking me, can we meet tonight? And I can say, I feel a bit tired and I need to take some rest. Can I see you tomorrow instead? It's a very simple way of how I can say no. I also like the expression I prefer. If someone's saying, do you want to eat at this vegan restaurant? I could say, well, I prefer meat today. I don't know, just making this up. But so I prefer is a helpful expression. And the more tricky, or the more likely you think your no might trigger someone, the more you want to include an abstract need. So the abstract MVC need, right? If it's just about something small, I don't always have to be like, oh, what's my need? If it's just about going to the movies today or tomorrow, I don't have to do that always, right? But if it's about having sex with my partner that I haven't had sex with for a long time, and I know this is a touchy topic, and yet I don't want to have sex right now, right? Then I might want to dig a little bit deeper in order to create the connection. Lastly, you can include, also, if you think it's a tricky topic, you can include your awareness of that your no, I mean, in the end, it's still a no that you're giving, right? That it might be painful. So after you said what you do want, etc., you could add something like, hey, and I'm aware this might be hard for you to hear because I know that you value, I'm aware this might be hard for you to hear because I'm aware that we haven't had sex in a month or something. So that it becomes an invitation for the other person to share their side and to be heard, which is actually another tip. Like, usually it's not so much the no that you have towards this specific thing that this person wants, but it's about, in a way, helping them reconnect with the hope that whatever is behind their request, whatever need is behind that, will be met. So it's not about having sex this very day, right? That's not, no one would be so attached to that. It might feel like that if there's no hope for their needs to be met at all, right? So to, I kind of lost track of my thought here. Yeah, so if you help them reconnect with the abstract need, which could be, in the case of having sex, it could be wanting a sense of connection that is, that has a certain intimacy, maybe, or just having pleasure could be the need behind it. And those needs can be met in different ways, right? And we don't always like the other options right away because might be a bit attached to our, most preferred option. But if you can help the person connect with the thing that is behind that, they will sense your care, and they might get the hope again. They might see some possibilities, which is really helpful. I want to emphasize, especially again for people pleasers, this is not your job. This is not your duty, right? You can say no without any explanation, without any care for the other person. So again, this all depends on context and what you want with this person and what's your history with this person. And, you know, in the case of if I'm with a partner that I have a good relationship with, I would want to check in with them if I have the space, if not today, tomorrow, you know. So there's that. I hope that was helpful about how to say no. There's so much more to this, but it also really depends on you as a person. You know, what is your experience in what happens when you say no? This might be actually a last tip. Like, if you're scared to say no, to brainstorm a little bit, like, what are your worst case scenarios? Not in order to have some self-fulfilling prophecy, but just to acknowledge what is actually already there anyway. And then to see like, oh, how would I deal with that if that's really the case? And what is realistic about it? And what is maybe part of what my child is scared of? And how can I reassure my child, you know, that if this person doesn't like me anymore, you know, that could be, then maybe it's kind of like a child thing that is about reassuring that, maybe there are enough people that like me, or, you know, if it hurts that this person doesn't like me, I'm going to be there for myself. You know, things like that can be helpful to say. All right. So we have another question. The third one, I'm going to do 4. So this one is about someone that says, when I read from my partner that they're talking down on me, how to handle that without triggering their defensiveness. That's interesting. So first of all, like, let's look at, and this is all the information I have. So, but what is it? Talking down on someone. What I imagine is that your thought is that maybe they're explaining something or talking about you in a way that is judgmental, or they're explaining things that you already know. I guess that's sort of the neutral way, right, of describing talking down on someone. And I like that you say, I'm reading this, right? We don't really know whether this person actually looks down on you. And I think, yeah, let me think. Yeah, so I think it's important first to determine, and this can be tricky, but to make sort of an educated guess, like, is this person actually looking down on me? And it's hard to check with someone because I don't think many people would admit, you know what, actually, I'm looking down. Well, it would be cool if they admit, because at least you have the clarity, but I guess most people won't really do that. So I would love for you to check with yourself, like, is this a structural thing? Am I structurally feeling like this person is actually looking down on me in general? Because that's a whole different situation where I think it's more about setting boundaries and not so much about having a more connecting communication. So yeah, that's a little bit tricky. Like I said before, NVC assumes like sort of a similar, like sort of a equal power balance, healthy power balance. But let's assume this person just talks like that a little bit, maybe to more people, right? And or that you have a sensitivity where you easily feel like people are talking down on you. So yeah, so I would first explore a little bit, like, oh, what are we really dealing with? And to be super radically honest with yourself. Am I often just having this feeling that people are talking down on me? And what's that about, right? Is it something about my childhood? Is it something about something I actually experienced a lot before, and now it's a little bit of like a sore place where I'm easily touched? Or if I'm radically honest, do I not have that experience ever with anyone? And do I see that this person does that to more people? And, you know, is there any hope sort of that this person could listen to me? And yeah, so do a little bit of an inventory in that. And then to address it, I would, as I said, I wouldn't really say like, hey, you're talking down on me, because what you will get then is a discussion, and that doesn't help you. So what you want to do is name the behavior, in a neutral way. So, you know, there's this tone in your voice that somehow I feel uncomfortable when you have that. And it's hard, right, to really like pinpoint what is it, or like when you're explaining to me when you're explaining to me something about my profession, I feel triggered, right? So the observable thing is they're explaining something about your profession. So try to see like what is it literally that they're doing or saying. And again, it can be tricky when it's more like in tone of voice or something, but you can really like think about what is it. And then to say, I feel uncomfortable, I feel irritated, or I feel, you know, tired, or anything like that. And then, then to ask yourself, I mean, this is just classical MVC steps in a way, but what is your need, right? Is it that you want to be seen in what is your knowledge or your profession, or just your basic human skills that you have, or it could be a need for respect, maybe, or a need for dignity, or maybe a need for connection, right? Like when you have this sense of, oh, someone's looking down on me, we're not actually having a connecting conversation. So try to find what is your need. I have the list of needs in case anyone doesn't have that yet. It's a free download, free PDF that's super helpful. So figure out what is your abstract need, and then and share that, right? Because that's, the needs are universal, so people are more able to relate to that. And then what else can you do? And then and this can be difficult, to come up with a concrete request to this person. So yeah, my need is for dignity, my need is for respect, my need is for to be seen in my skills. How could they concretely do that? And you could make this, like, turn this into a little bit of a brainstorm with the other person, depending on how willing they are. But since it is a bit of a tricky topic, I would suggest that you come up with something, because if you can ask for something concrete right away, there's often a relief in the other person. Because if I just say, you know, I need respect, they're like, but I respect you, you know, like it's a bit daunting how to fulfill that abstract need if they don't have any concrete idea about it. So, you know, if you want more dignity, like how are they going to give that to you? They might be very willing, but they might have no clue how to do that. So then it's up to you to think of what it is to you. Like, how do you want to be seen in your skills? Do you want actually that they are asking you something about it and you can explain it? Or if they assume many times that you don't know how to do something that you do know, maybe the request is, hey, before you explain, can you check what I know about it? Something like that. Or can you check if I want to hear an advice before you give an advice? Right? Those are very doable requests that people can understand, and they can be like, do I want to do that? Yeah, sure. Or maybe, you know, oh, that's going to be hard for me because I always give advice. And then, but then you have a discussion about, you know, you can negotiate a little bit and brainstorm about, oh, how could that work? Could that be something they can learn, right? They don't have to be able to do something right away, but can they learn how to do that? And often seeing their willingness is already bringing that respect and bringing that idea that I'm seen, you know? So that, yeah, I think that's what I would say about that. Hope again that was answering your question. Let me go to the last one. So this one is, I overstep the limit of my partner's listening capacity, which triggers his defensiveness. He's not very good at expressing his limits, but I know that sometimes he tries, but I'm too emotionally invested at that point. Yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, that's very interesting, right? So we're sharing, and it's such a vulnerable topic and so important to us to be heard in it, that we kind of don't want to know that our partners' like listening capacities have finished. So that's one part of the story. And the other part I'm hearing is that your partner is not used to actually expressing their limits, right? So these two are creating a dynamic that's not so healthy for both of you, I imagine, or not pleasant. So there's maybe something that needs to be done on both sides, but let's start with you because you are asking the question and you have the power to change yourself more so than your partner. So yeah, so I feel a lot of like softness for you, because for us to actually want to continue talking, even though we kind of know that their partner is finished, it just means that there is a topic that's very important, or that generally you have a lack of receiving empathy in your life, right? So that would be my first question, to explore that a little bit for yourself. Like, how is that in your current life? How was that growing up? You know, have you had like chronic lack of being heard, which makes it very painful if finally there is some opening, someone is willing to listen. And maybe there's also a bit of a thought that we have in our society that our partner sort of has to be the person, right? There's something of, this image about the couple, how the couple is supposed to be, and how the partner is supposed to provide for all your needs. And this is not, I'm not saying this as a judgment, this is just how we're conditioned, and this is not that easy to let go of. So exploring yourself, like, what is it that is true for you? To be honest with yourself about that and see what is true for you, and maybe see what is the biggest need there. Is it about being heard? Is it about that you want to be understood more in a specific topic or in general? Like, see what are your needs there, and then have a brainstorm with yourself, like, how can those needs be met independent of your partner? So, let's assume that they can't listen to you for the next months. What would you do, right? You would figure out something probably. So make a list and brainstorm, like, why, like who are the people in your life that could become maybe good listeners, or what could be opportunities to meet people like that. Is there like an NVC group in your town or anything like that? Is there an interest that you have where you could meet people that are sensitive to, or that are kind of attentive, or right? So have a bit of a brainstorm there. And then you'll probably notice as well that you have certain wishes around how to be heard, and maybe certain limitations, or things that you think are limitations in with whom you can share about certain topics and not. So this could be like a whole afternoon of exploring, of like, what are all my ideas about this that I might want to question or experiment a little bit with. And then there's the thing about, when you talk to your partner, because of course you can still, express with your partner as well. And I would make it like a bit of a brainstorm with them together, like, hey, this is the phenomenon we're dealing with. No judgment there. Again, we have something to learn here. This is like an interesting opportunity. Let's, brainstorm and see what could make it easier for them to say their limit, and what could make it easiest for you to hear that limit, right? Maybe if they're like, I'm fed up, that's a bit hard to hear. If they wait and wait and wait until they are at this point where they are fed up, right? So you want to be a bit before that. And maybe there's a sign they can make, or maybe there's, I would definitely recommend putting a clock if you want to share for a bit longer, like put a clock of 10 minutes and then check in and see if they have more time. That's also helpful for you, because then oh, it's about 10 minutes, right? Or maybe they have time for 20 minutes today, or, but it's way more helpful to have 10 minutes of attentive listening, of actual engaged listening, than like half an hour of like, you're not sure whether they are there, right? So, and maybe their quality of listening could also be improved, which would mean that it requires less time for you to feel heard. And if you have this sort of chronic lack of empathy, it could also be helpful to first take some time for yourself to self-connect and to already write or express in any kind of other way, so that when you come to them, you can be a little bit more efficient, let's say, in expressing, because you already went a bit deeper in yourself, so you can start already with a bit deeper layer, which will save some time as well. And so for your partner, it's their sort of invitation maybe for them to do some exploration of what makes it hard to say no. You know, we talked about that in the earlier questions. Maybe they can watch that, like what could make it easier for them to, what are they afraid of when they would say that, you know, I'm out of listening capacity. So I think actually some of the other topics we talked about could actually be helpful for them maybe. And overall, I would, I think I somehow have this sense that it would be helpful for you to approach it in a kind of like curious way, in a kind of like experimental way, like, hey, let's see what works. And at the same time, to have maybe this softness of like, if it's true, if I'm right, and I hope you can let me know maybe in the comments that, you know, you didn't get a lot of listening in your life, that to have maybe also some mourning about that, some grief, because this is such an important human need, you know, to be heard is like one of the, like, I even feel like teary saying this, because it's like, it's probably in the top 5 most important needs, I think, of human beings, besides the, you know, like to eat and drink and stuff. So get creative to really give that to yourself, like get really committed to that's what you're going to give yourself, and it doesn't really depend on your partner. Of course, you want a partner that listens as well, and there can be so many strategies to get that. I'm sure if there's other people hearing this, maybe they can share as well, like their strategies. All right, I hope you will enjoy these questions. For those who are interested to do more with me and with Kara, my colleague, I think you might know by now, I'll put a picture of her here, that I'm collaborating with Kara Chrysler, who was my mentor actually for the past 5 years, I think. She's been coaching me a lot, and now she actually works with me, which is so cool. And she's doing the live sessions of my courses, because I'm in Bali right now, and my timetable doesn't work with that, and I'm also honoring a bit more the introvert in me. And so if you're interested in doing in like interacting with us live, and to kind of see how does NVC work when I'm actually with the person, because now I'm just like making all these assumptions, right? Then you can join our free Zoom call. There's a regular one, like sort of every other month. So just, I'll put a link down below. And if you're interested to learn more about, you know, how to address things, especially if you're a people pleaser, and how to navigate conflicts, how to connect with yourself first and foremost, then I really invite you to join our NVC Foundations course. As I mentioned, Kara is giving the sort of live sessions for that, and I recorded the videos that teach you NVC step by step, with exercises and with, you know, like sort of a way to implement it every week a little bit more into your life. So that's super helpful if you are ready to do that. All right, let me know what you thought of this, like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.